been in Bitcoin since 2016, and I figured at some point we would start running into situations like we have over 2024, but I did not expect it this soon. Trump is definitely shaking it up. Bitcoin Magazine, David Bailey, holy crap, what he's doing and how he jumped in the middle of the election and Trump and everything, bringing him to Nashville. Beyond exciting, to say the least. I am definitely not a fan of politics in any way, shape, or form, but I got to say, what's been happening is pretty flippin' amazing for Bitcoin, for the world. We need a shakeup, whether that shakeup is successful with all the things that, all the hopium out there that everyone's smoking. I'm not quite sure about that because, again, I'm pretty anti-trust on any government whatsoever. But what's happened so far is extremely beyond anything I would have ever believed. So I'm getting a little bit more open to my optimism moving forward here. This is exponential for the entire world. I mean, you got France talking about putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet. It's all over the world, we have so much movement. Putin coming out and saying you can't stop Bitcoin. I mean, you can't get much more base than that. So these different moments in Bitcoin history, all culminating into 2024, like a wildfire, has been just insane. And I'm really excited to see what happens in January. And I think we've got a hell of a road ahead of us, and it's happening a lot faster. I think we've been cruising at like 15 mile an hour, and you can see bicycles kind of keeping up with us as we're cruising down the road. But we just jumped into a sports car, and we're ripping pretty hard right now. So we'll see what happens here next. The price going as parabolic as everyone's talking about, it seems kind of crazy to me to think we would have that big of a movement that quickly. In 2025, I know there's a lot of predictions out there talking about anywhere from 250 upwards of $1 million by the end of 2025. I think there are a few things that could happen that would make me feel a lot more bullish on the price hitting that. I think the biggest one that I don't hear a whole lot of people talk about, which is kind of crazy, and maybe I'm just completely out of it and everyone is talking about it, but I haven't heard it. It's the master strategy that Michael Saylor's doing, where you're able to borrow on that Bitcoin, on that value of Bitcoin. So like you're talking about, you got sovereign wealth funds that are going to hodl that Bitcoin. There's no reason for them to sell it. They can print money at will. Why would they sell their Bitcoin? I think once we get to the point where people are able to borrow on their Bitcoin, there really doesn't become a reason to sell your Bitcoin at that point. I would think anyone that is going to sell their Bitcoin when you can just borrow on your Bitcoin, they are not going to be big players, period, anyway, because they don't understand the tax benefit of being able to borrow on your Bitcoin. But then if you think about that, as long as the banks, companies, whoever is lending on this Bitcoin are hodling that Bitcoin, which they better be, otherwise we have more of a BlockFi Celsius crap going on. But I think hopefully we've passed those stages, and as we move forward, we're going to get some serious players coming in that actually know what they're doing when it comes to this. So think about that part. If people are not needing to sell their Bitcoin in order to go and buy their house and enjoy the wealth that they've been able to accumulate with their Bitcoin, and they're able to borrow on it, and the banks that are holding that Bitcoin that they're lending on, selling pressure is nearly gone at that point. And this could make, like, this is where I see the price going to that $1 million really, really quick. So the moment I start seeing real options for that out there, and banks truly giving the option for people to be able to borrow on their Bitcoin instead of having to sell it, then my bullish level is going to literally bust through the roof. And I think these are the things that you get a lot of people that are not into Bitcoin, they don't quite understand. And it's a lot of confirmation bias they don't have from, sadly, their financial advisors. I've been around a lot of financial advisors that are not Bitcoiners, and I think there's a major ego problem going on with these people. It's probably, I mean, Peter Schiff, who the hell knows what his whole stick is on all of this? I personally think he's stacking in the background. I think this is just a play for him to get clickbait and become really popular. But I think if it's not, or even if it is, there's a really big part of that to me that he missed. Like, he had every opportunity to get in, and he's pissed off, and he's got a hell of an ego, and he doesn't want to admit that he was wrong. And I think a lot of these financial advisors are the same way. They don't want to admit they were wrong. I've got friends and family. It's the same thing. I think in the background, they're kicking themselves and wishing they would have got in. But if they get in now, then they're going to have to admit they were wrong. They're going to have to admit you were right. And that's a very difficult thing for a lot of people. We have a very brainwashed world, and ego is something that the news media, the social media, it's one of the biggest feeders on the individuals that I've ever seen, especially over the years, but it's getting worse and worse, where everyone's ego is just getting fed as much as possible. And that's making it really hard for newbies to want to jump in and just accept, okay, well, I didn't get in maybe when I could have. I've heard about this forever, and just drop your ego and get in Bitcoin, because I don't think there's many people, if they just give it even 5-10 minutes to use some critical thinking skills, they're going to figure it out. And they probably already have. So once that starts happening, then the world's going to get a hell of a lot better. We really just need a hell of an ego balance out there, if it's possible.
Do you think that it's America that adopts Bitcoin first? And when I say adopt, I mean, maybe we'll call it strategic reserve, or maybe it's currency, or even removing capital gains taxes, things of that nature. Do you think it's America that does that first, or do you think it's a field? I'll give you the rest of the countries in the world. What are your thoughts when because we mentioned Putin, some of these other really crazy developments that, like you said, the lady in the EU or France, kind of calling out the EU saying, what are we doing? Where do you see this country battle, I guess, if you will, the hash race, a global hash race?
Yeah, I think it's going to be the U.S. I think there's a lot of countries that are probably doing it in the background. I mean, we had Germany that just sold all the Bitcoin that they've accumulated for all those years. I honestly think that sell, and you can call me hella red pilled, and I'm off on a conspiracy on this one, but I could see that Bitcoin being sold to all the constituents, all the different politicians in Germany. Like, that didn't just go out on the open market. That was like an undersell, because obviously, with as stupid as, and I will say stupid, as these countries have been over the last few years, especially doing the most idiotic shit possible for their countries, they obviously don't give two shits whether their country is successful or not. And I could see, like, again, Germany selling their Bitcoin, they just sold it to each other under the table, because they're obviously worried about themselves personally being very wealthy and set up, but they are not worried about their country being wealthy or set up whatsoever. So I think the U.S. has the biggest balls out of them all, but I also, like, going really red pilled, I think there's a hell of a lot more going on behind the scenes than any of us would ever want to admit. And I think Trump is, so many of these things feel so planned to me. It's just hard to believe that, like, Kamala Harris, come on, like, Joe Biden, like, this is, if it's not a joke, then holy shit, we are running on stupid right now. And like Brandon said, big warning, I'm going to be a little bit overly honest in this. I mean, idiocracy to the next level. Biden and Kamala are a perfect example of how incredibly stupid a human being can be. And the fact that we even considered that these people should be voted for as president of the United States, let alone in Congress or making any decisions whatsoever. Holy shit. So to me, it feels crazy that, like, people are not standing up going, wait a minute. This is just like, this is a movie set, right? This is all planned. This can't be real, because it's just too stupid to actually be real. So again, back to your question, I think the U.S. definitely is the one that is going to be the first one to come out and say it. And I think there's a lot more planning going on behind the scenes than anyone wants to admit. And I'm just, I guess, glad that I'm in the U.S., because that's where the start is going to be. I mean, we adopted the internet faster than anybody else. We brought Silicon Valley in and created the .com boom here in the United States. And Bitcoin is going to just completely crush the size of what that ever was. So for us not to do that it'd be insane. But we are living in a little bit of an insane world right now, so who the hell knows?
If you like that clip, then you definitely got to check out this next spicy clip. I think you're really going to like it. Come on, check it out. But if you want the full version, the full interview, check that out over here. Come on, do it. I'll see you in there.